Hello everyone, this is Sir Jerryson, and for today we're going to discuss about advanced CSS, what's new in CSS3 using transform, selectors, background, and border. Our target: after completing this lesson, you're expected to learn the basic of transform property in CSS3, apply the different 2D and 3D transformation methods, understand how the new selectors in CSS3 work, and apply the new features in CSS3. So for this part, I want you to pause the video and encode the following using our HTML and CSS. So after 3 minutes, you are expected to have this output. So what is CSS transform? CSS transform is a CSS property that allows you to manipulate an element to add visual effect. You can skew, rotate, translate, or scale an element. So as you can see here on this part of the video, you can see the different 2D transform methods that we're going to use. So the different transformational methods that we can apply on our website is we have rotate, scale, skew, translate, matrix, and others. So we start with the translate method. To translate an element from its current position to another, the translate method is used. The movement is based on the x and y axis in our Cartesian plane within the given parameter. Translate x for the first value and translate y for the second value. If only one parameter is listed, example, translate 50px, it only moves the element in the x-axis. So on your bracket, I want you to encode transform property, and we have here a colon, and you're going to use the translate method. And inside the translate will be two values. We have 50 pixel and 100 pixels. 50 pixel indicates this is for the translate X, so your movement will be going to the right, and translate Y, the movement will be going down. Okay, but if we only have one value, say for example 100 pixels is not here, okay, it only moves on the x-axis, which will be downward. Okay, so I want you to encode this on your brackets and see the output. Next method is the rotate method, which enables the element to rotate either clockwise or counterclockwise. The parameter of this method is the angle of the rotation expressed in degrees. Positive values will rotate the element clockwise. However, if it's negative, the element will rotate counterclockwise. So again, I want you to encode this transform property using the rotate method on your brackets. Okay, so since we use negative 20 degrees, the position of this particular method will be on counterclockwise. Now, we can also use rotate X, rotate Y, rotate Z method. Using the rotate X method, you will be able to rotate an element on its x-axis at a given angle of rotation. On the other hand, rotate Y is used to rotate an element around its y-axis at a given degree. The rotate Z method will rotate the element in its z-axis at a given degree. So let's take a look at the given examples. So we have here a div transform rotate x 150 degrees. So let's assume this is your box. So the rotation of 150 degrees will be just like this one. Okay, so it will rotate by 150 degrees. Okay, now for transform rotate y, the rotation will be just like this one. Okay, that's your rotation part. And for the rotate z, it's similar with the rotate method. So it will be either going to move on this axis or on this axis. Okay, so that is how you can use the rotate method. Now, another method that we can apply in CSS3 is the scale method, which will enable an element to increase or decrease its size based on its given width and height. The first parameter will scale the width while the second parameter is for the height. If one parameter is used in this method, both the width and height will be scaled according to that value. So for you to see how the scale method is used, I want you to encode this on your brackets as well. So we have scale 3, this will be for your width, and 0.5, this will be for your height. So the 3 indicates that the size will be multiplied by 3 times, and 0.5 will be multiplied by 0.5. So it will be smaller, while 3 will be bigger. So let's take a look at the following example. We can also use the scale X and scale Y method. So there are times that you can want the height of an element to increase or decrease. In order to do it, you can use the scale X or scale Y method. The parameter will act as a multiplier of the current width or height. For example, we have scale X 0.5 will transform the width of an element 0.5 or half its original width. Okay, so you can also use this method, scale X and scale Y, if you want to just scale either the height and width of your div. Now, another method is using skew X and skew Y method. So this will skew the elements along its X and Y axis. The skewness will be determined by a given degree. So however, if the second parameter is not specified, it automatically has a 0 value. Thus, the element will be skewed along the x-axis only. Okay, so another example, please encode this on your brackets. So transform skew by 5 degrees on your x-axis and 20 degrees on your y-axis. So it is also possible to set a skew on your x-axis or y-axis only. To do this, you need to apply the skew x or skew y method, and both will require only one parameter. Okay, unlike the skew method a while ago, it needs 2 parameters. This time, you can just use 1 parameter for each of the method. Okay, so this is the example for skew x, negative 20 deg, and this is skew y, 20 deg. And the last method that we can apply on your CSS3 is using the matrix method. So to combine all the transformation into one, the matrix method will be used. The parameters required are the values of scale x, skew y, skew x, scale y, translate x, and translate y respectively. So please also encode this on your brackets. So we have matrix 1, negative 0.3, 0, 1, 0, 0. So when you will be applying this on your CSS later on, I want you to memorize this using this mnemonics. Okay, scale, skew, skew, scale, translate, translate. Again, scale, skew, skew, scale, translate, translate, x, y, x, y, x, y, respectively. Okay, so that's how you can memorize the matrix method. Now, some browsers may not support the standard syntax of transform property, and to be able to increase the compatibility of the property with other browsers, you may add additional syntax for this property as shown in the example. The prefix WebKit is used for lower versions of Chrome, Opera, and Safari. So this is for Chrome, Opera, and Safari. You can use this WebKit. For version 9.0 of IE, going down, the prefix is MS. For Mozilla Firefox and Opera, in lower versions, you may use the prefix -MOS or -O for your CSS transform property. So to really understand how transform work, I want you to do this activity for 5 minutes. So I want you to pause this video and do the following instructions. Using the transform matrix, method, create a box using the following specification. So you will be creating a box with an ID, box number 2, with the following CSS properties and values. We have border of 4px dotted, width 450 pixel, height of 250 pixels, font size of 200px, and background color of green yellow. So for the method, move the box to the right by 50px and going down by 80px. The width will be 1 and the height will be half the size of the box, and the x-axis Q will be 0.2 and the y-axis Q will be negative 0.5. So please pause the video and do the activity for 5 minutes. So after doing the activity, your output will be just like this one. So we have transform matrix 1, negative 0.5, 0.2, 0.5, 50, and 80. Again, we have scale, skew, skew, scale, translate, translate, XY, XY, XY. Next is CSS3 selectors. Attribute selectors apply formatting to certain elements that have an attribute with corresponding value. The syntax and definition of each of the attribute will be explained. So we have here our element, which will be enclosed by our square brackets, and inside the square brackets will be the name of the attribute, the symbol, and then the value. For this particular example, it selects an element where its attribute is equal to that particular value. Next is we have a caret selector in which it selects an element where its attribute value starts with that particular value. For dollar selector, its attribute value ends with the value. And for asterisk selector, the element where its attribute contains a particular value. So each of the symbol, as you can see here, has its own characteristics. For equal, it should be equal to the value. For your caret, it should start with that particular value. For dollar, it ends with that particular value. And for asterisk, it should contain that particular value. So let's take a look at each of the example for each selector. So as you can see here, we have an ahref element which has a target, and the value inside the target is underscore blank. And we have here the link for disney.com. So for the selector, since this is a linked element, so you can just place here A, and then which this will be enclosed by the square brackets. We have here the name of the property equal to the name of that value. So we have underscore blank. So our goal is to change the background color into yellow. So using this code, the output will be just like this one. So it says here that, for example, you can select all elements such that its target attribute is equal to the value underscore blank, then sets its text decoration to none as well. So you can also use this to change the text decoration to none. Okay, this is the equal selector. So the next selector is using the caret selector. So as you can see here in the example, we have declared three classes: H1 class top header, P class top text, and P class top content. And as you can see here on the CSS, we have used a caret selector which has the word top. Okay, so as mentioned a while ago, using the caret selector, the starting word should have the word with that particular value. So in this case, we have the word top. So our goal is to change the background color into yellow. So we have the word top for the class 1, top for the class 2, and top for the class 3. So all of those classes will have a background color yellow. So that's the use of the caret selector. Next is we have the dollar selector. So using the dollar selector, the end word should have that particular value. So in this case, we have first test, second, my test, and my test for the classes. On the CSS part, we use the dollar symbol, and the equal value will be test. So it means all of the last word which has the value test will have a background color yellow. So the HTML element which will have the background color yellow will be first test, my test, and my test. And then the word second will not have a background color. It's because it doesn't have the word test on the last word. Okay. Next selector is using the asterisk selector. So here, it should have the value contains, okay, with the value te, okay, te. So let's check if all of the classes have the te value on it. So we have here first test, we have te here. Second, it doesn't have any te. Third, we have the te value here, and the fourth, we also have the te. So using the asterisk selector, it should contain the word te. Okay, so we have first, my test, and my test as well. Okay, next selector, we also have here the tilde selector. Tilde selector is used to select elements with an attribute value containing a specified word. So here, we declared two titles, title with clematis flower and title flower. So on the CSS part, we have the square bracket and then the property title tilde equals to flower. So value containing a specified word, the specified word is flower, so all of the two title has the word flower, so both of them will have a border 5px solid yellow. And then for the last selector, we have here a bar selector, which is used to select elements with the specified attribute, whose value can be exactly the specified value or specified value followed by an hyphen. Okay, so here we have the word top. Okay, bar is equal to top. So we're going to find the word top in each of the classes. Okay, so we have class top, and then class top content. Now, as you can see here, it's a specified word top. Okay, this is one word, but this one, it uses a hyphen, so both of H1 and P class will have that particular attribute or selector. Next, we have position selectors. It selects an element according to its position in the document. These are also known as pseudo classes. For the example of position selectors, I want you to access bit.ly-4ajuqmk. So let's define the syntax, definition, and example of each position selector. The first one is we have the colon group. This selects the root element of the document. In HTML, the root element is always the HTML element. So with the HTML element, you can change the background color to blue, or you can add background image if you like. For en child, n, this selects an e element which is the n child of the parent element. So the value of n can also be odd or even to get the children that are odd or even element child of the parent element. So let's take a look at this example. So we have here div and child 2. It means that the second div on your code will have a background color blue. So that is the position selector. Next, we have E and last child. It selects the E element, which is the nth child of the parent elements counting backwards. So here, we have a div nth last child 3. It means the third child of that particular element will have a background color blue. Next, we have E nth of type n, which selects E element in the nth of its type. So this one we have div nth of type 1. Okay. Next we have E and class of type n, which selects E element in the nth of its type counting backwards. Okay, so this is the example. We can change the background color as well. Again, you can go to this particular sample to really understand how the position selectors are used. And then we have E last child. It selects the E element, which is the last child of its parent element. So you can change the background color to blue as well. The first of type selects the first of its type inside a parent element. Okay. We also have here last of type, a only child. Its element, which is the only child of its parent element. It means that it has one element on that particular parent element. Only of type, it's just the type of a particular element. It means that you're going to use only paragraph on this particular example. And we have here two colon selection. It changes the format of the content selected by the user. Say, for example, we want to change the background color on that particular area. You can use the colon selection for formatting the content selected by the user. So these are examples of position selectors. Next, we have the background origin property. The background property is used to determine where the background images will be positioned in the box. There are three possible values for this property. We have content box, padding box, or border box. So let's take a look at the example here. We have ID example 1, border, it has 10px-black, padding of 25px, background, we have paper.gif, and background repeat, it's no repeat. So here on this particular example, we use the background origin padding box. So using the padding box, it will have an output similar to this one. Okay, so as you can see, the box inside it will be placed inside the padding. Okay, on the content box, the box will be placed inside the content, and for the border box, the box will be placed inside the border. So remember the box property, it has different parts, the content, the padding, and then the border, and outside of the border will be the margin. Next property is using the background click property. So this is used in order to know where and if the background images are clipped or cropped. To clip the background images, there are three possible values that can be used. You can use the content box, padding box, and border box. Okay, so here on the content box, the images will be clipped on the padding part. Okay, for the padding box, the images will be clipped on the border, and for the border box, the images will be clipped outside of the border. Okay, so that's a background clip property. Next, we also have here examples of the background clip, as you can see here, using the border box. Okay, so the background is at the border, as you can see here. Next, we have here padding box. So the background is on the padding, and we have background clip content box. It will be clipped on the content only. So these are the examples of the background clip property. Next, we have the background size property. In the previous version of CSS, there is no way to control the size of background images, even though adding background images to elements is possible. With background size property, you can set the size of background images. The possible values may include the length values, percentage values, or keywords. Okay, so we have here in length values, you can use pixel. This is width and height. We also have percentage values, that's 10% and 20%. Again, we have width and height, or keywords value using cover and contain. For contain, the value will be resized, the image, so that it fits the background area while maintaining the aspect ratio. So using contain, okay, the image will be contained inside the box. While cover, the value will set the image size to completely cover the background area while maintaining its aspect ratio. So the cover will be determined by the actual size of the image. So that's background size property. Next, as you can see here, we have examples of background size. So you can use actually the auto, which is the default one. It will automatically change the background size depending on the box that you have created. As you can see here, that's the automatic or default. Next, we have here background size 300 pixel by 100 pixels. Since you indicated the actual size of the image, it will be placed inside the box. Next, we have here 100% by 100%. It means that the background size will be resized to 100% width of the box and 100% height of the box. So later on, when you will be applying this on your website, you can actually use the background size 100%, 100% to get the whole width and height of the box. Next, we have here um, percentages. So this is 100, 100. This is 75, 50. So we have 75% of that width and 50% of the height. Next, we have here cover. As you can see here, it will cover the whole box. While contained, this will indicate the actual size of the photo. On this particular example, we can also use background size both contain and cover. It's because you placed here two images. The first is for the image 3, which is this one, and mountain, which is this one. Okay, as your background. So the first image is for contain and the second image will cover the background. So that's how you can place background size on our HTML websites. Next is image border. So image border property will help you set an image to be used as the border of the element. So we can actually do this. This property will be divided into three parts. The image that will be used as a border, where to slice the image, and define whether the middle part of the border will be repeated, round, or stretch. Okay, so again, we have border property. You need to indicate here the width, the style, and possible style again, is transparent or not. And we have here padding, how many pixels, and the border image, the URL, and then okay, 30 as a value, and round, repeated, or stretch. Okay, so let's see the example. So here we have border image URL 50 round. Okay, so it means 50 of that particular image will be round. As you can see here, you can actually pause the video to test this out. Okay, using border.png picture. Okay, you can actually download this in our K-Hub, or you can just research this particular border on Google. Okay, so the image and this slices into 9 sections like a tic-tac-toe board. Then it places the corner at the corners, and the middle sections are repeated or stretched as you specify. So you can specify here example URL border 50 round. It will have this particular output. This one it's on percentages 20%, and this one is on 30%. Okay. Now, on your boxes, you can also have rounded corners, which can be set using the radius property. Okay, border radius property. This property will determine the radius of the element's corner. Okay, so as you can see here, we can specify the border radius into pixels. Okay, 15px, 50 pixels, 30px, or 5px. It has 4 values, as you can see here on the example. Okay, on P2 we have 15px, 30px, and 50px and 30px. It means that we have this on the top. This is left and right. Okay, it's just this one and this one. And then on the bottom we have here 30px, which is this one. Okay, and then we have border radius of 15px and 50px. So this is 15, the opposite side, and this is 50px. And border radius of 15px, it means all sides will have 15 pixels. So this one, this one, this one, and this one has that value. So that's how you can added or rounded corner on our boxes. Okay, so if you have some clarification using transform and selectors and background property, you can just access W3 Schools, okay, for you to see different examples on selectors, using backgrounds, borders, and others, and specifically on the use of the box model as well. Okay, so in summary of our discussion for today, CSS transform property will allow you to move, rotate, scale, and skew elements. This property will use transformation methods such as translate, rotate, scale, scale X, scale Y, skew, skew X, skew Y, and matrix. The matrix method is used to apply transformation all at once. Not all browsers are compatible with transform properties. In order to resolve compatibility issues, prefixes are used together with this property. CSS3 introduced new features that will help improve the layout and design of your web page. New selectors were added. These selectors are used to select elements based on the values of its attributes, its position, or state. Additional background properties include background clip, background size, and background origin. And you can set an image as border using border image property and set the border radius to have a rounded corner. Okay, so for our last formative activity for quarter 2, you're going to do advanced CSS activity. You just need to follow the instructions given on the activity sheets in our KHub. So you need to read the instructions and read the rubrics as well on how you will be scored on this particular activity. Okay, so that's all. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.